when I ask my students
Hmm.
to ask questions and share their ideas and give me the results of the discussion, for example, their pair work.
Right.
That's practically everything what I do.
Okay, so pair work. Good. How about you, Elena Gamper? What's your favorite activity?
I've mentioned describing a picture. Okay.
Oh, that sounds good. Could you elaborate on that? Could you tell a bit more?
Well, I just told Natalia Vasilina that I've got a group of teenagers and we were discussing urban tribes recently. And
Uh-huh.
I've made a presentation of different types of urban tribes and to be more exactly goths. And I asked them to describe their clothes, their makeup, the
Okay.
way they look, and the way just if they make you frightened or not.
Hmm.
So children were discussing these ugly,
Okay.
beautifully
Okay.
ugly people.
Okay.
So interesting.
Jenny, hello. I know that you teach speaking a lot. What is your favorite speaking activity?
Hello, everyone. I teach English to adults only, so basically I start every lesson with just talking to them. You know, like friends normally do. I ask them, "So, guys, what have you done this week? What have you been doing?" Depending on the level, or what did you do yesterday,
A
or
small
what
talk. A small talk.
Yes, it's small talk.
right. And out of this talk, then we have some material to get a
Hmm.
hook on, and then develop the further lesson.
Okay. Okay. Good. I'll show you a speaking task. Take a look. What do you think about this? This is a speaking task. Take a look.
Ну, это тихо. Age group, something before administrative support, schedule, attractiveness of teaching in general. Present to class. Тихо. У меня учеба сейчас.
Okay. Okay. Now tell me, where are the speaking parts? How would you approach this? Where is the speaking activity itself? Could you unfold this and explain a bit? What do you see in front of you?
Just a general task, and according to the task, it's for advanced students. That's why there are not so many instructions. I mean, without any detail, without any support. It means that the level allows students to cope with them.
Well, this could be intermediate level, but what would be what do you need to clarify to students before they actually start doing the activity? As a teacher, how can you break this into subparts?
By asking their partners, their group mates, they need to find out this information and they need to figure out how they can find out age group levels. So basically they need to ask questions.
Okay, so what would be the target language?
Ask
Yes,
and
Jenna.
ask. Mhm.
Yes, what is the target language here?
Asking questions.
Okay, asking questions about
these points.
About work.
Okay, okay, about work. So if you're thinking about teachers as here, so it's gonna be teachers asking about work. Okay, but there is something else, not just asking questions.
And be ready to present to the class.
And what does
It means
and
that
what does this
after
mean?
it means that it's a sort of a monologue after
Yes.
asking questions. So that's
This
the
is
second
a
part.
monologue, correct? And then what sort of language will you or your peers need to cope with this task successfully?
Like report verbs. She said, she says, she finds it attractive.
Okay, but you see, interview 3 people about their teaching. Interview 3 people. You need a little bit more than that, more than just a reported speech.
It should be a group discussion, maybe.
Statistics, maybe 2 out of 3.
So maybe comparing with.
Yes, Tatiana, could you elaborate on that? And that's what Jenny just said. Tatiana, go ahead.
So I think that while you will be presenting this information, you will be comparing different opinions maybe.
Possible, but you
Or
have
basic
the
three.
final task. Zhenya, what would be the final outcome?
The final outcome will be summarizing and presenting the results of the survey. Like
Yes.
the percentage, I don't know, 2 out of 3, 85%. Most people,
Okay.
1/3.
Okay. So interestingly, this could well, you could shape it to your students' needs and say, interview your classmates about your past weekend or about your holiday. Where did they go and such. But actually, this is not one speaking activity. These are two speaking activities, interestingly. And for the first of them, students need to know about how to ask questions. And the second one, and continue with discussion. And then for the final one, they need to know statistics and some language where they might want to use in their presentations. And if this is a presentation, a formal presentation later in class, so probably this will be some introduction and main part and conclusion. So there are quite a few things. Now, when thinking about any speaking activity, what do you need to consider? You, your students, anybody?
Giving
How
clear
to form questions for?
Maybe
How-
ask questions. Okay, what else?
First of
Questions.
all, why you are speaking, so the idea
Yes, the idea,
and
very
the goal
important.
of
Yes,
the speaking.
yes, Natalia, good. What else?
The level of the students.
No, students, when they speak, what they need to consider. They don't need to consider the level.
language probably, language and
Active vocabulary. So they should
Vocabulary.
use some.
What else?
time limit.
Okay, what else?
The final
What's-
outcome.
Yes, what should be the result of the task? So what's the speaking? How to say?
Yes. Okay, the main concept, the idea. Good. What
Yes,
else?
yes.
Good. What else?
Maybe clarifying some questions. For example, if we don't understand, you should be ready to explain.
So communication with the listener usually. Good. What else?
Vocabulary structures, are they supposed to use certain structures or?
Maybe if it's on the task. Okay. In the real world, we don't have a certain structures which we have to use.
No, yeah, but.
Good. What else?
How to help them use the structures, like how to scaffold them.
I'm sorry, I don't know your name because it's the number. What's your name?
Kate.
Kate, yes. We're talking from the speaker perspective, not from the teacher perspective.
Okay, sorry, yeah.
Any student needs, any speaker needs to start thinking about individual sounds when pronouncing something. Any language, Russian, English, Japanese, German, this could be individual sounds, articulation. And then formulation, actually, how to use words, grammar choices, vocabulary choices, syntactic choices, word order, communicative language choices, whether it's formal or informal, macro planning, what comes first, second, third, register, if you can say hello, if you say good afternoon, what would be the best option in this case. Of course, features of connected speech if you are speaking at length. And then will be recasts if people didn't understand you, monitoring yourself, interlocutor's response, conceptual preparation, self-repair, strategies, and time limits if there is time pressure. That's a lot, and that's for any speech act. We do this in our first language, but we don't think much about this because it's automatized. In our second language, which we teach English, it's also automatized, but sometimes we worry about grammar or vocabulary, but just little parts of it because we are advanced users of the English language. But in any language, with any speaking task, we need to cover these aspects. Is this a lot? What do you think?
Too much.
Too much, yes.
This is what our students go through every time they open their mouths. Every time, literally. And the lower the level, the more challenging the task is. And actually, we can help our learners at each of these stages. And that's why we need to break these activities and to help them and give them some aids at all of these stages. But if you think about speaking altogether, this will be 4 stages. And the first stage is conceptual preparation. It's when you start thinking about what you want to say and why you're going to say this, what the task is, and how your plan might look like, and what is your basic structure. The second stage would be formulation, when you start thinking about language as such. It's about discourse choices, it's about microplanning, it's about organization, it's about vocabulary, it's about grammar, so it's about word choice, it's about syntaxes, it's all there, syntax. And at this stage, are we actually producing sounds? Stage 1 or 2? No. You see, this is about speaking, but this is all brain work. This is about speaking, but this is not speaking. This is thinking, actually. And there's two very important stages. What would be the third stage? What do you think?
Articulation.
Yes, yes, as you remember it from the lecture. And what is the last one?
Monitoring.
Could you explain what that means, Natalia?
I suppose it's they should understand the way they are doing it.
Yeah.
It's like
doing it correctly and effectively.
Controlling
Yes.
from the speaker's point.
Yes, yeah.
Not
So,
only.
what did they say? Did they say it in the past or in the present? What was it, the right words or wrong words? Was it the right form or wrong form? Was articulation correct or incorrect? And then students make choices. Maybe they want to.
Aware of the language they use, right?
Yes, yeah, but we do this usually when we control ourselves and monitor ourselves when speaking in any language. We do this. Okay, so you see there are 4 basic parts, but actually only two-thirds of them, they do not cover speaking itself. However, students need some support, and this would be important for our learners. I will let you work in groups for a couple of minutes. I want you to think how you can actually help your learners to cope with the speaking activity, okay? In your groups of 3, keeping in mind all these many aspects which students need to keep in mind, and the 4 basic parts of a speaking activity, how students go through the speech act. What can we as teachers do to help our learners in your mini groups?
So are we talking, is it, the first one is conceptual preparation.
No, I think the first one, so it does not cope with students at all. It's just stage just for teacher, I think, yes?
I guess so, yeah, so it's...
No, this is for everybody who wants to speak, so it's for the learner. But what can the teacher do to help the learner in this situation?
So at first, the task should be very precise. So the student should exactly know what is expected from him, I think. So the task, the instruction should be as clear as possible.
Okay.
You mean the topic, right? So the thing,
topic or the task. So what should they do? Ask, answer, discuss, and so on.
Yes. Is it a dialogue? Is it a role play? Is it like a monologue, a presentation? You mean this, right? As a concept.
Well,
So
yes.
Yeah. How can we help the students to manage or to give the student a precise task?
Something. Okay. So 3 main stages, yes, given instructions, making them aware of the final outcome, generating and brainstorming ideas together, and then eliciting from them or pre-teaching grammar, vocabulary, functional language.
Yeah, that's what we have.
And maybe just monitoring while they're speaking to give them further, to give them feedback, delayed feedback, right? Okay.
There are a few more things you can do, Женя, and what could this be? What you said is correct, but could you go a little bit deeper and maybe at a lower level or take smaller steps?
Lower level.
Maybe pronunciation.
Yes, how can you help with pronunciation?
Maybe just a sort of warming up with some sounds,
Okay.
with some words,
Okay.
how to do it. So before they start speaking.
What was the first stage in a speaking activity for the learner? What's the first block? It's about brain work.
Conceptual preparation.
Yes,
like
and how can we help the learner at this stage? What can we do? You mentioned a few things, but there are more actually.
Maybe some introduction of the topic with the help of the text, or maybe
Okay.
some video,
Excellent.
or some just not out of blue, but some
Yes.
maybe something
Yes.
which it could be based on.
Excellent. Yes. What else? Jenny, you mentioned brainstorming. Can you go a little bit further? What can you do with this brainstorming?
Like we can generate ideas together in open class.
Okay,
or,
and do what with these ideas?
like put them on board.
Okay. Okay. Why is this important?
It's important to make it visual for them so that they can rely on something when they start speaking. And during this, we can also like pre-teach or elicit something that can come up.
So, from what I hear, you've mentioned first a few activities connected to this topic, which could be reading or listening, or maybe even a sample activity or an example, a demonstration. Then you mentioned some conceptual preparation when you work together, brainstorm, and put this on board. This is the third point the students rely on. And this is still conceptualizing. But then students need to start thinking about language. How can I help them at this level?
We can take a look at some samples and analyze them.
Analyze and do what? Yes.
And practice using the.
For example. Okay. Okay.
We can give some key expressions, for example, on the board or maybe in their papers, so that they could rely on them.
Excellent.
And use them.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, go on. Stage 3, actually, articulation. What can you do at this stage? Go on. 1 more minute.
We can drill here, like to help them with some sounds, with some pronunciation.
If we give them.
Женя, we give up.
What is the first stage?
Where is it?
What is the first stage of a speaking activity? For the
conceptual preparation.
Of course, conceptual preparation. And what can you do as a teacher to help your learners with the conceptualizing?
Give them a role model, to give them.
Yes, have a demonstration. Yes, what else?
So some kind of example, yes?
What else can you do?
Presenting a task first.
Okay, yes, it's there. What else?
Maybe to kind of get them interested, to motivate them well, by starting a discussion, by asking them questions, so that they are ready to kind of move on and discuss some.
But do they know? Well, you said many of them don't have any idea about the topic of ecology or some other difficult topics. What can you do?
Maybe we can start with a text, with something like after reading an interesting and engaging text about something, maybe kind of controversial topic,
maybe,
and then be ready to discuss it.
Okay, okay, good. And what else can we help? How else can we help them at this stage? Conceptual preparation before they start speaking.
Maybe given vocabulary.
Okay, sounds good. This is this next stage, which is formulation. But at conceptual preparation, you can plan with them together what it will be trying to say, and put this plan together on the board. Collect ideas from different learners and put this on the board for the learners make sure they can rely
To
on it.
elicit, yes?
Yes, you
to
elicit
some-
ideas from many students and put this on the board. And then you said they might need vocabulary. Okay, what else? How else can you help them at the second stage, which is formulation?
Well, some pre-reading tasks like prediction.
This is a speaking activity. Why do you need pre-reading?
Oh, sorry. So, yes, sorry.
Maybe some visual introduction, maybe pictures.
It has already been done. It's the previous stage. It's all there. Yes, good. What else? Formulation. The stage of formulation. Formulation is about what? It's about
formulating the language, you mean?
There are 4 big stages in any speaking activity. First one is conceptual preparation, thinking.
Yes.
Second is formulation, thinking about what?
How to do it?
No. Could you be more specific?
So do you mean
so what's expected from the
about
students?
a dialogue, a monologue, a presentation, about this choosing the right discourse?
This is the task is conceptualizing. Formulation is about discourse. Okay, about what else? Vocabulary. What else? Well, it's their vocabulary. So next comes
grammar.
Of course. Yeah. So grammar, vocabulary, discourse choices, then word order, maybe. Okay. How can you help the learner at this stage? What can you do?
To remind them about grammar constructions, grammar patterns.
Remind them sounds very vague. You're thinking in the right direction. Could you be more specific? What do you mean by remind here?
To put down some grammar patterns on the board.
Okay.
So please don't forget to use this, and don't forget the formulas, and so.
Yes.
Like
what else can you do?
Maybe to put like a mind map with vocabulary, with different kinds of vocabulary, just to scaffold them.
Yes, correct. Yeah. Okay, let's go back to the main room and see what other people have got. Welcome back, everyone. A lot of good thinking. Welcome back. And there are 4 main stages in any speaking activities from the learner perspective. What's the first stage? Conceptualizing, conceptual preparation. What's the second stage? Formulation, yes. And what is it? And what is it about? Formulation.
Vocabulary, grammar, and microstructure.
Good. And what is the third stage actually? Articulation. Okay. And what is this about?
Pronouncing.
Pronunciation?
Yeah, actually pronouncing the words. Yes, actually pronunciation and announcing what you said. And what is the last stage? What could be the last stage?
Monitoring.
Okay. Closely connected to motivation. All right, good. Let's take a look at the first stage, conceptual preparation. What can you do as a teacher to help your learners conceptualize quickly and effectively? Many things to help, many things to do to help your learner. We've just talked about it. It's a revision.
Give a role model dialogue.
Not necessarily a role model, but just give a model. Yes.
A model. Yes.
What else?
It might be an interesting article, text, something to discuss.
Okay.
Yes, something to start with.
Good. Okay.
The topic.
Good. Thank you, Kate. Yes. What else? Somebody else?
Putting ideas on board after
brainstorming ideas on board. Excellent. Good. Yeah, it's all about macro planning, checking it whether they're on the same page. What can you do at this stage? Formulation.
We can elicit some language.
Okay.
And pre-teach if we need.
Yes, correct. Okay, so put it on board. So vocabulary. What else?
Presenting some keywords or expressions.
Some grammar points
yes.
that we show the need to say something.
A quick grammar revision. Yes, good. What else?
practice those structures from the sample, from the text or from audio. Or from,
Yes, yeah. Some of you said time limit or time pressure is a big thing for students. They are very slow, they want to speak faster, but they don't usually have time. How can you help them with that at this stage?
Ask questions.
Okay. A good idea here would be to, yeah, go ahead, maybe.
Maybe to draw some structures, and that so that they are more confident in using them later in.
That's true, yes, but it's all about vocabulary grammar. But if you're thinking about timing, you can actually give them extra time to write this down. So they could write it down, focus actually on formulation, start thinking about how to put this, and then use it later on in their speaking. Not necessarily write everything they need to say later on, but a few ideas and a few sentences.
Bullet points.
Maybe bullet points and maybe even complete sentences, because you want them to focus on structure. You remember in this first activity I showed you with the teachers, interview 3 teachers, the first actually subtask could be write down 3 questions about your peers, and teachers or students could write down 3 questions physically and then use these questions in their speaking activity. And then you have articulation, and then you have monitoring. We'll come back to these aspects in a few minutes. But before, let's think about accuracy focused versus fluency focused activities and exercise. What's the difference? Can anyone tell me what is the difference?
Control of the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So accuracy focused are strictly controlled
Yes.
and organized by the teacher, while fluency is freely practiced.
Okay. And what is the difference in terms of second language acquisition, in terms of thinking or knowing how languages are learned?
Fluency focused activities, usually I'm not thinking much. I don't think much. I just let it go out of me. Whereas accuracy focused, I'm more aware, I'm more mindful about what it is that I say.
We'll come back to this in a second. But before, I want you to put this into 2 groups. Just put your numbers in the chat box. Accuracy focused activity and then fluency focused activity. For example, number 1, is it accuracy focused or fluency focused activity?
Accuracy.
Allow students to select the language they use.
No,
Fluency.
select.
Fluency. They have a lot of choice, yes. Number 2, accuracy or fluency? Number 2.
Accuracy.
Implicit, this is actually fluency.
Really?
This is what you maybe not know, but just say so.
So some knowledge that has been already here,
Yeah.
yes?
Yes, acquired.
So
yes.
something that you are not thinking over.
Exactly.
I see.
Okay.
Mhm.
Go ahead individually, just in the chat box. Accuracy focused activities, all the numbers, and then fluency focused, all the numbers. 2 minutes. It should be 5 and 5. Yelena, number one, is it actual accuracy when students can choose the language they use?
You mean they've got many choices.
Mm-hmm. So they don't have to use present perfect continuous or past simple.
I thought about using language, for example, good language. I mean, no, proper language, or maybe using some slang and so on.
And again, this would be fluency focused activity, not accuracy.
But they should be very careful using selecting the words. I was thinking.
We don't know whether they should or should not, but we're thinking about activity now, actually, but not what students think.
Okay.
Take a look. Check your answers.
Haven't got numbers. So.
Which type of activity is easier to run in class for the teacher?
Accuracy focused.
Yes, accuracy focused, of course. Yes. Which one is easier to control in terms of correct, incorrect?
Again, accuracy.
Which one might be easier for the students to complete because they have the answer keys and they clearly understand what they need to say? Accuracy is easier, but in fact, I think accuracy-focused activities are overused in the teaching classroom, and there is a little problem here. And the problem comes with theory. Well, working with speaking, there are two views. We can start thinking about controlled practice, and we can start thinking about freer practice. And controlled practice, this is accuracy-focused activities, a lot of control. If it's correct and correct, grammar forms, vocabulary forms, it's easier to control. However, some researchers believe that we learn the language not necessarily when we use correct form or correct sentence, but when we start actually speaking in a communicative way with freer practice, which is why free practice activities, which contain, when students start speaking, contain a lot of mistakes, and it takes a lot of time, and it might be noisy. Actually, this might be more productive, generally speaking, for the learner than controlled practice activities. Certainly, we have to, as teachers, we have to combine both. But from my viewpoint, I think more time should be given to free practice activities, because free practice activities, they actually resemble the everyday life. Just a quick comment for everyone: if you are not speaking, please keep your mics off, otherwise we hear a lot. Everyone hears a lot of noise, like everybody. Okay, so I'm muting you. If you need to talk, unmute you with yourself and then mute yourself back. Okay, thanks.
I agree with Женя that we should use more free practice, but sometimes it's very
it is difficult. Yes, and
that's difficult.
It is, and that's why we're talking about here. And let's go through a few activities and go through some activity analysis. There are different types of activities. What is this one about? What is the target language? What is the focus here? Switch on your microphone, give your idea, and then switch off your microphone, please.
It's find someone who, the practice of asking questions.
Okay, what is the level? The learner level?
Elementary.
It is, yes. And
elementary.
What kind of activities are here? What kind of language is here? I'm sorry. What is the target language?
Cities, present simple, and cities.
Could you be more specific with present simple?
Yeah. Maybe the verb to be.
Could you be more
Like
specific?
libraries are very important. Bookshops are.
But as a speaker, you will be asking questions. So this is activity about asking questions in present simple. Can you see it?
Sorry.
That's okay. What else? So these are asking questions in present simple. And what do you want in the town where you live, actually? Do you want libraries in your town? Do you want bookshops? Do you want clothes shops? So this is present
General
simple.
questions?
General questions in present simple, and there is something else.
Justifying your answer?
No, because this elementary level doesn't ask you why. You mentioned grammar. Tell me about vocabulary.
Plural. Nouns plural.
What nouns?
Countable nouns. S. So the S ending.
Again, you're thinking about grammar. I'm asking about vocabulary. What do students need to know to complete this task effectively and successfully?
They need to know the meaning of these words.
Correct. Correct. So what is the target language here?
Places in the town.
Yes, places in town. So place in town, this is target language, and asking questions in present simple. How can we help our learners before they actually start speaking?
Giving just a modal dialogue. For example, do you want? Yes, yes, I do.
Okay, have a demonstration. Good. What else can you do?
They can match the place with the picture or the place with the
Excellent. Yeah, so revise vocabulary. Yes. What else can you do? Especially for elementary level learners.
Showing pictures? What's this?
This is revision. Okay. Vocabulary revision.
Drill
What else?
the pronunciation of this word.
Yeah, you remember stage 1 conceptualizing, it's maybe clear, but stage 2 about actually formulation, this might be problematic for elementary level learners. You can give them some time to write their questions down. Write down 3 questions or write down 5 questions before you start speaking, and give them time for this.
But won't they fall into the trap that later on they will always start by writing? They will never start speaking right away.
I don't know what happens next. I want them to be successful now. And if they're elementary level learners and they don't know what to say, and they say, okay, talk together, and they don't know what to say, then this is a bigger trap, I think. So at this stage, I would give them, especially when they're elementary level learners and they have nothing to say apart from what is written on the paper. And usually in textbooks, we have some cliches, we have some formulas, but if you don't have it, as here, give them time to actually write down 3 questions, and then ask students more questions, ask students around them. Okay, a different type of activity. What is this about? You cannot see the script, it's okay, but you can guess the general idea. What's the general idea?
Read and complete the timetable.
But why? There is a reason for that.
Missing information, filling in the missing information.
Say what he does, he or she does, and what he doesn't do on Tuesday, Monday, something like this.
There's even you can go even further. This about, you can read the word roll cards, don't you? So it's about.
You need to ask your partner to find out your missing.
Is it mingling activity? Some kind of mingling activity?
This all pair work. Yes, that's all pair work. Yes, you can ask about the schedule and then complete or find a date for a dinner or for a meeting. Okay, how can you learners in this role play? How can you help your learners? What can you do?
Elicit questions, elicit how they can ask for missing information.
Yes, what else?
Make sure they understood the role card. Like
okay.
What it is they need to do.
Excellent, yes. What else?
I think the easiest thing is to demo, like pick one card, demo the task, and
Yeah.
to make things much
So
easier.
everybody would know what they're doing. Okay. And again, give them some thinking time to prepare and maybe to think about questions if it's about questions or what they will say. Okay, and this is the last one. Again, this is elementary level.
Find the differences.
And so what is this activity about? What is the target language here?
Present continuous.
Maybe, and
Affirmative and negative sentences.
maybe. Again, you're thinking grammar, which I'm not surprised. But you can start
Well,
thinking about vocabulary as well.
It's leisure activity. So
Yes.
speaking about vocabulary, it's leisure activity.
Yes. Okay. So there are two views. So it's grammar and vocabulary, and it's about maybe present continuous, and maybe this is leisure activities or some activities in the park. Okay. And how can you deal with this? Card A, card B, student A, student B. What can you do?
First, we can ask them just to name activities that they see. So
Excellent. Well done, Jenny. Yes. Okay. And what else can you do?
Do a couple of them together. Do a couple of activities together, like what's he doing, so that they have a model.
If we have, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Well, maybe we may ask, find someone who is blah blah blah.
Yes, that's good. That's good. Okay, so it's giving a lot of support. But then you want your students to start speaking in pairs. What can you do to make sure that they speak productively?
Maybe I can give them a list of these activities that we brainstorm, which I made beforehand. And once they asked, they can tick to make sure that they
take a look. These are two pictures and they have differences. How you can actually ask your students to take one picture and cover the other one and work together and find the differences without showing the picture to their partner, which will increase the level of communication. Because if your partner doesn't know what you have, then you have to explain this, and for this you have to actually start speaking. Okay, these are different types of activities, and there are more. We'll talk about a few more activities, which will be discussion, role play, survey presentation, guessing game, information gap. What I want you to do now, I will give you 2 minutes to think individually. And I want you to go to the Google document. I'm sending you a link. And there are 5 activities. Look through all 5 and choose one which you think is, choose one which you like. Okay? Could be personal reasons, could be some objective reasons, but think about one of the activities which you like in particular. Maybe one more minute.
Should we complete the table, the last
No,
table?
no, it will come later. Okay, please come back. You've just read 5 different activities. You've looked through 5 different activities. And Yelena, which one do you like from the 5 we have now?
Well, most of all, from my practice, I like discussions.
I like
I
discussion.
don't know. Yes,
Why?
I think I'm just good at leading them.
Okay.
I mean, I'm good at making students express their opinions. I'm good at asking different questions, and
Okay.
I'm good at sorting out the topic.
Okay, good. Kate, how about you? What's your choice here? Your microphone is off, Kate. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I like discussions too.
Okay.
Discussions.
Why?
Well, it's not because I'm good at them, but it's just I think if you give students a lot of support, if they're really, really interested, if they have quite a vocabulary to use, they, I think, are very, very motivated to speak out if they have an interest, if the topic is interesting, if they have something to say, even if they make mistakes. And it's always a pleasure to hear your students at least trying to express themselves, you know, to speak out. And that's why I love it.
You like
even
it?
if it's, yes, even if it's an elementary student, if it's maybe like an easier topic. And
okay, thank you. Yes, Женя, what's your favorite activity from the list, or which one do you like? Maybe not necessarily favorite.
Discussions, definitely. Because for me, the best one is where there is a little me. In discussions, especially with higher levels, there is practically zero me. I just sit back, listen, and they do what naturally happens in real life.
Yes.
Talk about something, and I just sit back and listen, maybe taking some notes. And...
Yeah. Okay. Now let's go through some analysis now. And I think this might be important. And we'll take a discussion first, and then you'll do the rest of the group together. Discussions, are they easy to set up? What do you think?
Discussion is easy. I think it's easy.
Yes, it is easy. What makes it easy to set up? What do you need to set up a discussion? It is easy.
Different questions.
Yeah, just a question. Yeah, that's right. Discussions, are they purposeful?
Yes, there is always a task, there is always an outcome. Do you agree or disagree? Or what do you think about it?
What do you think actually is not a purpose? So,
opinion.
But this is not a purpose. This is
not.
Well,
after discussion, students stop. Okay, I think students stop being afraid of opening their mouths.
That's correct. Okay. I can hear some child playing with the bell. I think if it's in your flat, can you turn off your microphone, please? Otherwise, people might be disrupted. Thank you. Tatiana Yurevich, I think this is you. Can you switch off your microphone?
Can I?
Okay. Actually, discussions are not very purposeful. And when we start thinking about students speak a lot, they develop their fluency. Actually, this is the teacher perspective, but not the student perspective. And this is very important for our session today. Discussions are not purposeful because students, they just need to talk without any reason. And if it's boring, so this might be very difficult to actually start a conversation if students are not interested, because there is no real purpose in a discussion apart from just talk or what do you think. What you can do here, there could be some purpose. For example, convince your partner, and that's why people have debate and give reasons. But usually, discussion per se, this is not very purposeful. Is it productive or not? Can you? This is next question. Talking about discussions. Can you switch on your microphone and explain what you think and say what you think? Productive
Not
or not?
predictable at all.
Productive.
Productive.
Or not?
Yes.
Is
It is the most productive
I think it's productive.
of others because they produce tons of language.
Okay, and now I put it on hold and I put it on pause, and let's think about a discussion from the learner perspective. So from the teacher perspective, this is very productive if it happens. But from the learner perspective, is there any product?
Yes.
Yes, I think yes.
What is the product?
Their dialogue, their discussion with the partner.
Dialogue is not a product, actually. This is what happens from the teacher perspective. From the learner, there is no product. It is not productive per se.
Ability to speak for some time, non-stop, fluent speech, isn't it a product?
Okay, Женя, I can hear you. If you put it on the criteria, then it turns into a product. Record a message, a voice message, this would be a product. There is a product. Or have a presentation. If you're not speaking, please turn your microphones off. Thank you. We can hear everything is happening in your flat. Thank you. So discussions are not productive at all because you do not have a presentation. You cannot show what you've done. You do not have a clear ending. What you can do here, you can, as a teacher, set a list of criteria and say, make sure that you speak for at least 3 minutes non-stop. And then this could be a sort of a product. But actually, a real-life discussion does not have a product per se. You cannot touch it. There was a discussion, but what makes a discussion? It's not productive. Is it predictable or not, a discussion?
No, we may never know what ideas they're going to express.
It could be predictable. How can
it could be, yes.
Yes, what could be predictable?
Topics.
Exactly.
Opinions.
Exactly. Well, opinions, this will be very personal. We don't know, but topics, of course. Topics for sure. Is it adaptable discussion? Is it easy to adapt?
Yes, I think it's. I don't know. What do you mean?
To adapt because it's very free, and everything that is free without rigid frames is not easy to adapt, I think.
I agree with you, but can you change the topic real quick?
Yes.
Just write a different sentence on the whiteboard as in your demonstration task. You have somebody else's quote or somebody else's citation, and this would be a different discussion. So discussions are relatively easy to adapt. You ask a different question, you put on board, and here we go. It's a new discussion if it starts. So it's easy to adapt. What I want you to do now, I will give you 7 minutes to go through role play, survey, guessing game, information gap. You can always rely on the Google document which you have. You will work in groups. Be careful with purposeful and productive. Which position should you take when thinking about purposefulness? Whose position is that?
Students.
A student's position. Okay, not the teachers. For teachers, this is amount of language and new vocabulary used. But from the learner perspective, this is something else. And when thinking about productive or not, whose perspective should we take? The same, student perspective. Again, So is it productive from the student perspective, not necessarily from the teacher perspective?
I'm sorry, Jen, could you
Yeah.
please clarify once again the difference between purposeful and productive? Because to me, this sounds pretty much the same.
Purpose is the reason for speaking. Productive is the product, the outcome. For example, if you can show something, this is a clear product. Complete a questionnaire. This is a product. You have completed it. It's done. Purpose: ask your students about your vacation. This is not about the questionnaire. Just asking. This will be the purpose, but there is no product as such. You just ask them. Okay. In your groups of 3, you have all these questions in one table in your Google document. This is the same link, and you have all these 5 activity types. You start with activity 2. Off you go in your groups. 7 minutes.
Purposeful.
Well, Tatiana can't see, so we need to clarify a bit. So, Tatiana, we're going to speak about role play now. Role play, and now we're talking about its purpose. So, is it purposeful or not? A role play.
Well, it's also speaking, and speaking on some definite topic, and some it's I think the role play is some kind of a discussion in this just in this way.
Well, you need
It's just
to produce. You have a real purpose to find out something, to find the to come to conclusion, to do something. So I suppose it's very purposeful. The same as productive.
So it's purposeful.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's purposeful.
So what is the next?
Productivity of the role play.
If it is productive, the productiveness of role play. I suppose it is,
if
because
it will,
there is a product.
What kind of product will you see? I think it's
they complete the game. For example, as we had the picture of find out how to rob the museum, for example, and if you have found the way how to do it, so it's a product. You have robbed the museum, or you have found out who stole the vase. Isn't it a product?
Who stole the Christmas?
It's a good point, Natalia. And in some role plays, you just take somebody else's role and you mingle and you talk to different people, and there is no purpose. So it depends on the role play, actually. Sometimes
some kind of role play is just a conference or a congress, for example, and you're just talking like a discussion.
Yes.
So
Yeah. So sometimes there is no purpose, and sometimes there is a clear purpose. For example, find a secret agent because there is somebody behind. Ask all people around in the room and find who is the liar out of.
Like mafia, for example.
Yeah. That's right.
Yes,
Okay.
and what about the productivity? Is it a
Yeah, when
productive
we
or not?
find out it, so yes, we have a product.
It depends on the type of the role play. If we have to get the product, then it's productive. If it's just
Can you give an
speaking,
example? Can you give an example of product of role play, for example?
as Natalia Vasilyevna has just mentioned, if we have to find out something, so if we have to find somebody or something, yes, it's a product. If
Jenny,
we have,
but Jenny said if we can show it, then it's a product.
if we can show the person who is to be guilty, then it's a product.
Yes. Or if I can show the vase.
I agree with Tatiana. Sometimes that it's difficult to pin down the product here. Sometimes if you need to talk to partners and come up with some spoken outcome, then there will be a product. But usually role plays, they don't have a product. Usually it's a discussion based. So I agree with Tatiana here. They are very purposeful. You need to find something. You need to do something. You need to create something, but not necessarily productive in terms of product as such. Go on.
Okay, the next point.
Is it adaptable? Is it adaptable? Predictable.
Predictable.
Yes, of course, it's predictable because they've had roles.
Yeah.
Yes, and you never expect that somebody will change its position just because he has got its own legend, and he or she has to stick to it. So throughout all the role play. Okay,
is it adaptable? I don't think it's adaptable. You need to make up a new game to change the topic.
Okay, survey and presentation.
Certain purpose, even if you don't have anything to say, you produce a certain amount of language anyway.
Kate, I wholeheartedly agree with you, but according to the information given to us today, I think that role play is just the same discussion, but more complicated to set up. That's why it's not purposeful. Whereas they don't have a very narrow and strict task of what it is they have to do, like tick, I'm done. How they know that it's done, how they know what they do. Yes, that's why from this perspective, probably it's not purposeful, as it's just like a discussion.
Let me interfere here. Actually, role plays quite often they're purposeful because they're created to be purposeful quite often. And this would be find a secret agent in the room, or convince convince the detective this is not you, that you had some alibi. Well, things like this. Usually they are purposeful. You need to talk in order to achieve something. They are not very productive because you don't have a product which you can show later on. But if you are mingling and playing a game, for example, with this role play, when the one is a teacher and the headmaster and a parent, and you are trying to actually, the purpose is to make a decision what is going to be happening with the 8-year-old child who is unhappy at school, what is going on, and your purpose would be to settle this situation actually. So actually this could be very purposeful, but not very productive. Go on. Role plays, are they adaptive? Are they easy to adapt?
Actually, I think not so easy, because changing one element in one role play would cause the alternations in other.
Yeah, it could be chaotic, and then it takes a lot of time. You can do this. And are they predictable role plays?
Quite predictable, right?
In what sense?
We give them the start, we give them the context, but I think we may never know where they go and how other parties will respond to this. That's why I don't think that they are very predictable and easy to control.
Not easy to control, I agree. So this is semi-predictable. And how about the role play you've seen today? A parent, teacher, and head teacher. What can you predict here? What can you not?
We can predict the language which they're going to use. We can predict the very outcome, the very decision they're going to come up with.
Okay, move on. Next, activity.
So next would be survey and presentation.
Be easy to prepare. So I suppose that we can use both of answers. Well,
Is it purposeful?
then
I think it's not very
it is.
purposeful.
Why
Really?
not? To find out which is
yes, yes, So we've
you
got
have the
yes.
purpose. We are not just discussing. Yes, it's a purpose.
Yes, I agree.
Productive? No, you don't produce anything. You just guess. It's like with the role play. Yeah. So predictability. It is. They either find out or not.
Oh yes, adaptable.
I'm sorry, what are you talking about?
Guessing game. How can we adapt it? For
Guessing
what? How can we adapt it? For
Again, you change the topic and okay. So now, so you have written some sentences about what you did yesterday, and now some ideas about, for example,
about your future plans, for example. Yes.
Yeah, about your future plans. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Easy. Now, information gap, Tatiana. Information gap.
Okay.
This one is not easy to set up because you need to prepare the text or the pictures. So it takes a lot of time to prepare, I suppose.
Yes.
Well, purposeful. It is. You need to complete the task. You need to complete the text. It is purpose.
Yes, you have to show the purpose.
Productive?
Yes.
Yes, of course.
It is. Yes, you show, you present the whole text.
Yes.
And predictable?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, of course, it's predictable.
Of course, you predict what kind of text they will get at the end.
And you predict the answers.
Yes, you can predict the answers. Adaptable? Not sure. You need to change it. It's like the role play. You will have to change everything. The text or the gaps.
Yes, it's not.
So I'm not sure that it is possible to adapt.
Yes, I agree.
Okay. Well done. Okay, you have 1, maybe 2 minutes. The other group they're still working, and in the chat box this is a quick task for you. This will be my next slide. Come up with some rules to help make oral fluency task work well. Think about a few ideas. So what could be the ideas? Some rules to help make oral fluency tasks work well. What could this be?
Is it some kind of summing up?
Yep. So what can you, as a teacher now, what can you recommend your peers to make sure that your oral fluency activities they go smoothly?
I would advise students be polite. So not to offend the others. It's about the cooperation, communication.
Think from the speaking perspective, not from the culture perspective, but from this. We're talking about speaking and not culture. It's not about appropriate, inappropriate. It's more about making activities more productive. Let me help you a bit. Just a few ideas for you. Information gap, topics, task types, planning, thinking time, error correction.
Because they've like they found out exactly the exact number of students, for example, or I don't know, they maybe they have like a kind of a pie chart to present and show. Yes,
we have numbers, particular
yes,
numbers.
yes.
Yeah.
And the last point was yeah, purposeful, productive, and
predictable. Is it predictable?
Predictable. Yeah. It depends on the situation, of course, but predictable.
I think it is predictable that when I make a survey, I kind of know my students and I predict that I know that some of them have a cat, some of them have visited the concert of.
Maybe it's kind of semi-predictable because
personalized.
That's good thinking, Jenna. You know a lot of facts about your students, but now can you think predictable in terms of language learning, not necessarily the facts about the students?
It is predictable in terms of language because they will ask certain questions. It's have you ever, did you, so I know what kind of grammar they are supposed to use.
Yes, yeah.
Or vocabulary, the topic, the concept, or whatever it is.
And next, presentation.
I think we're running out of time. Let's go back to the main room and see what other people have got. Okay, everyone is back. Welcome back. A few final comments on this sort of activity. I'll show you this table one more time. And there is no one way around this. It's not black and white. It's not about true, false, correct or incorrect. It's more about thinking how you can present these activities or use these activities in your own teaching. Take a look. Not all activities are actually purposeful. And we like discussions because we think that learners speak a lot. But for some learners, discussions are not very purposeful. And it largely depends on the topic and the student's interest in the topic. However, some activities are quite purposeful. For example, role plays, usually very purposeful because they're created in such a way that students actually need to come up to a solution, find something, find this spy in the room, or give the alibi, or come to an agreement. Not all activities are productive. Some of them are more productive than the other. For example, survey and presentation is usually a very productive activity because you can clearly see the product. This will be some outcome, maybe written on paper, some statistics, or a presentation given to some group of learners. However, with their information gap, it's difficult to say what the product is. It's a very purposeful activity. Student A and student B come up to an agreement trying to find the date, but it's not necessarily productive. Some of these activities are quite easy to predict in terms of language use. For example, if you have a survey, and as you have seen today, survey about the places in the city or in town. And this is a highly predictive activity because you know there's going to be questions in present simple, and they will be asking about places in town. However, with a discussion, you can predict the topic, but you cannot predict the language. You can help the learners with the language, but not necessarily predict. Which means some activities are easier to give help with their, for example, with discussions, you don't know what to give your students apart from necessary vocabulary or some general phrases such as I think or I believe that. What can you do? But in survey and presentation, you can give actually more language because for a survey, they need to be able to ask questions. And then for a presentation, they need to be able to give some statistics, 5 out of 10 or half of the group or 50% of our class or most people in our group, things like this. And you can clearly teach them this language before they give presentation. So predictability actually gives you a lot of might give you a lot of thinking for further scaffolding exercise. And then adaptable or not, again, some of the activities you've worked with today are clearly easy to adapt. For example, discussions are very easy to adapt, but role plays are not adaptable at all because you need to redo, re-choreograph everything if you want to a role play with different roles or different levels or different focus, or find a different role play. There's going to be a different role play. A few more words before we continue. Take a look at activity 4, guessing game, and it's an interesting one because you might think this is a writing activity first, but actually this is not. Actually, this is a speaking activity. Write 6 sentences about your typical daily routine, and then some sentences should be true, some should be false. It's not about writing. Actually, it's about giving your students some background, some thinking time, so they could perform better when they start speaking, actually. And this is a low-level activity, as you can see, everyday routine, typical things, and you write it down. And then work in groups of 3, take turns to read, and then it turns into a speaking activity. Quite often, it is recommended to give some thinking time, even for writing, before actually speaking activities, especially for low-level learners, because students, as you might remember, they have a lot of decisions to make, which are connected to conceptualizing, grammar, vocabulary, formulation, syntax, articulation, monitoring, feedback, register, and all other things. What do you need to keep in mind when completing the following, when working with oral fluency tasks? Could you give a few general recommendations for teachers or some connectors? Switch on your microphone. Yeah, go ahead.
For teachers or for students?
For teachers, for teachers. Now for teachers.
Information gap. You mean when a student hasn't got enough information to answer to take part in a discussion or something else? You mean like this?
No, information gap is when a student doesn't know what his or her partner knows. That's an information gap. For example, comparing 2 pictures, I don't know what people on the partner's picture are doing, or I don't know his or her schedule. I know mine, and this is the information gap. Anyone? Turn on your mics and give a few recommendations for teachers.
Well, in terms of information gap, we as teachers, I think, should make sure that students clearly understand what information is missing and what question they should ask. It should be very straightforward, like just this one, not a variety of them. I mean, information.
Okay. First of all, there should be some information gap. It is recommended that students would have an information gap in an activity. For example, I can show you some problematic. Let me find it. Some potential pitfall. Some teachers might show the learners, say, okay, work in pairs, compare picture A and picture B. You are student A and student B. But if student B has access to picture A, then there is no reason for asking questions, because I can see everything. I don't need to ask questions, actually. What is this woman doing on the bench? Or what is this man doing under the tree? There is no reason for this. So make sure that student A cannot see picture B and student B cannot see picture A. So actually information gap exists. What else can you recommend on topics, task types, planning, thinking time, and error correction? Anyone? Go ahead.
I guess if it is topics, we should make sure that they are interesting for
Yes.
students and they're not going to fall asleep.
Yeah.
in terms of the language, in terms of the grammar, we have to make sure that they know this grammar, they know how to use it.
Okay.
Maybe a good idea to revise it before.
Yes.
As for task types, maybe to give instructions very clearly. If it is a new task type, maybe to rehearse even before, to break them down into short sentences, short, simple sentences, clear to follow.
Yeah. Number 4, planning thinking time.
Allow them planning and thinking time, allow them, give them some time to think.
Plenty of, yes, a lot of thinking time. And how about error correction? We've never spoken about it, but what are your feelings?
I think you shouldn't correct the student while he's speaking. You shouldn't stop him.
I agree. Why not?
Because he will be at a loss. He will stop talking. He will lose your mind, his idea.
Yeah, probably.
And,
Okay, so make sure your error correction is selective and probably comes at the very end of the lesson. A typical speaking lesson will include a lead-in, and you gave a lot of ideas today. You said there could be a text, so this could be a picture, this could be a provocative question, this could be some input. There should be probably some language input, which could be pre-teaching vocabulary or pre-teaching phrases, which could come from a text or from a demonstration. There should be a clear demonstration when student knows what students know what they should be doing. And then the communicative task, if you want them to actually communicate freely. And finally, there should be some feedback, probably, and there could be 2 types of feedback. This could be content feedback, and there could be some language feedback. And feedback on content. Okay, great ideas, well done, excellent work. I like the way you acted, or I like your presentation. But then actually, let's take a look at some language pitfalls and some misused words, for example. So, and this comes at the very end. So the feedback would not, or error correction stage would not interfere with the flow of speech or flow of thought. A demonstration now. This is, I'll show you my student, and she will be talking about this cartoon, this comic strip. Take a look. Just 1-page cartoons. I like cartoons. I use it sometimes with some of my students. A short story, a few pictures. The task was to recreate the story, possibly using some text. And this is the final version. Just a couple of minutes. I think it's under 2 minutes. This is Lisa. Now she's 12 and she was 11 in June. So we did this in June, half a year ago. You can start talking now. Go ahead. That's me.
The Donald Duck bought hypnotism set, and he wanted to try out on Pluto. He said, "Pluto, now you're a mouse." And Pluto thought that he was a mouse. After that, Donald turns out Pluto in chicken, and turned out Pluto in lion. Pluto thought that he was a lion, and went after the Donald. Duck climbed up the wall on the roof and fell on Pluto. The fall brought Pluto to senses.
But what happened with Donald?
Donald didn't understand brought senses
Yeah, didn't understand what happened
and go away and went away.
Okay, ran away. Thank you. What did you not?
Sorry, Jenny, what was the question?
What did you notice?
Ah, okay.
You weren't interfering. She was on her own. You gave her the floor.
Yes, 2 minutes.
She corrected herself.
It did a lot of monitoring. You remember monitoring is one of the things. Yeah. Okay. What else did you notice?
When she paused for some time and it was just the end of her speaking, you asked her a little question just to push her a little.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
So that he could concentrate and finish her speech.
Yes. Good. What else? In terms of mistakes, in terms of language use, in terms of production.
Reported speech is always difficult for students.
It is. Okay, and that's fine.
Grammar, she skipped present simple, past simple.
Couple of times. Yeah.
Sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And without text, little text, and it's too much thinking about how to describe the pictures and perhaps
This is not the yeah, that's correct. This is not the first time Lisa was doing the task. Actually, we rehearsed a little bit, and there were a few stages, and we worked on vocabulary and read the text, and you could clearly understand that climb up the wall. This is not the phrase she would use spontaneously, but it came from the reading. And hypnotism sat and turned Pluto into a chicken, for example, but she said turned out. But she turned chicken. Okay. Altogether, was it a productive from the Lisa's perspective? Was it a productive activity?
Very productive.
From her, it was actually. Yes, she had a video. Yes, and it was a productive. Was it purposeful?
Not much.
Yeah, just talk to give the story. Give the story. But from the learner from the teacher perspective, was I happy as a teacher when at the very end of the lesson? What do you think?
Yes.
Yes.
Why? I was.
Because you got a product.
Fine.
Because she was speaking. And
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, and I can see the difference.
You saw the results. You saw your results of teaching.
Yeah, and actually she saw the results as well later on because
and your parents saw.
Exactly.
I think.
Yeah, that's what
you're very happy.
Yes. Okay, before we finish, a few more slides. Just potential problems might come up with the speaking lessons, and some students, some teachers sometimes make this potential problems. Sometimes we as teachers will say just talk. But actually, from the learner perspective, just talk doesn't make much sense. Why should our students be talking? So there should be a very clear reason. And if they have this reason, if they feel the reason, it works. If they don't have the reason for speaking, it doesn't work. So just talk is not a speaking task, actually. Also, discuss with your partner. Some learners who are not used to this discussion frame, they are not willing to participate. And I understand them because what should I discuss? Why? What will be the results? Where is this information gap? How can you do it more productive? Discuss with your partner again. This could be a nice instruction, but if your students are used to this type of instruction, if not, you probably should introduce your students to this type of activity. Make a presentation, especially in front of the class. Some teachers just say, okay, now make a presentation. To me, it doesn't make much sense because I think this might be face-threatening activity for the learner, and Presentation is an extremely complicated process, making presentation, which involves a lot of different angles. It would be stage fright and vocabulary and a lot of rehearsal and speaking at length. And just make a presentation doesn't sound as a very productive task for me. And finally, main a dialogue. This comes from, I think, from the 70s or from the 80s. It is not productive at all, because actually we are not writing a script. We are not writing anything. Dialogues are not made. They are produced. Yes, when we have this information gap. And some teachers say, okay, now make a dialogue. Doesn't make much sense. There should be a clear task for the learner, and then the dialogue will emerge from the task. A few books which you might find useful. How to Teach Speaking by Scott Thornberry. Take a look. Etipedia, this volume, which you see now on the slides, it has a section on speaking, and I think they also have a section on, they have a volume on speaking as well. And on top of that, if you're interested in teaching pronunciation, go and check out Sound Foundations by Andrew Underhill. Pronunciation, this could be treated separately. I chose not to talk about pronunciation today because this is a part of speaking, but not the speaking task. And I think this is it. I'll send you the slides, and of course there will be a few links. A few websites which you might find interesting if you don't know them. WordWall, check it out. It could be interactive to be used in class or online. And check out elo.org. This website has a lot of short videos, under 1 minute usually. Speakers, non-native speakers from all over the world. This could be an excellent demonstration for your learners, and an excellent listening activity, usually very basic. And then the levels might be different. And then this could be a fantastic demonstration. So do the same. Could be an instruction for your learners. Talk about your holidays, talk about your job, talk about your everyday routines, talk about your future plans. And many people from all over the world with different accents, non-native speakers, share their views on this website. So it's a good one, I think. We'll stop here. 1 minute thinking time. What have you done today? What can you remember? 1 minute, go through your notes, take a look. Еще полминутки по-русски или по-английски, что сегодня было интересно, что усвоили и что осталось за кадром. Еще полминутки поразмышлять для себя. Что готовы использовать в классе.
For me, it was quite essential to make speaking tasks interesting for students, because teenagers and young learners are not eager to speak just for speaking, because what on earth? I'm sorry. Exactly. Because if you want me to speak, say why, and then I will speak. So yes, I will make the tasks more precise and more interesting.
Thank you, Lena. Что унесете с собой сегодня, кроме собаки?
I'll talk about products. So I have not thought about it before. So if it is productive or not productive, so I just maybe so we made dialogues, we spoke, but maybe didn't do any products as you show us that
productive
it can be a message
and purposeful. Yes, productive and
video. It's very interesting for me.
Okay, excellent. Good.
I'm with Tatiana here. My biggest takeaway from this session would be approaching terms productive and purposeful in a different way, because it turned out to be actually opposite to what I believe they were. And now I will try to think from the student's perspective, not just from my perspective. And probably I will even reconsider my top-ranking speaking activities. And it was also nice to get the stages of speaking lesson, because speaking is such a skill itself, difficult, you know, to measure, unlike writing.
It is, yeah, because in speaking, it's everywhere. Grammar comes with speaking, vocabulary comes with speaking, but as a skill, what is your focus?
Yeah, so it will help, thank you, it will help to put it in frames and get a better focus.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, thank you. Наталья, Екатерина, что-нибудь для вас сегодня?
Yes, I agree with Evgenia also about like kind of reconsidering the purpose of the task from the student's perspective rather than from my own teacher's perspective. And also kind of paying more attention to the to the goal, to the aim of the task, like why on earth, as Yelena said, the students are supposed to be talking, because it be like I have my own idea of the task in my head as a teacher, but for students it might be a completely different kind of concept, you know, like because something they I don't know, think is one thing, but something they are going to produce and is completely different thing. So setting the right goal and giving the right precise, concise instruction, like do this and that, because most of the students do need this kind of a command, you know.
Yes, yes, a guidance.
To perform.
Exactly. Okay. What are your questions?
What's your favorite type of activity?
I don't think I have a favorite one. Usually I like doing things and then redoing things. First, and I call this, not I, but it is called task, teach, task. When you give a student a task, an activity, and you know they will sort of fail or they will underperform, and then you go through teaching procedure, show a few demonstrations, work on language, say, okay, now do it again. And that's my favorite usually, if we're talking about speaking.
Can I ask about your summer school?
Sure.
Will you plan, or are you going to plan doing in Moscow?
Can you plan anything these days?
Next summer.
Fingers crossed, touch wood. Yes, but we'll see.
Me too.
Thanks, Elena. Yes.
I hope and I can go.
Yes,
and I want to know the information.
Yeah.
To be.
Женя, I've got a letter on my email box concerning your lectures till the 24th of December. Will these lectures be some kind of a just some more большего объема, чем наши с вами сессии субботние?
Это больше теоретическое. Вы можете спросить, мне кажется, вот здесь несколько коллег сидят, которые эти лекции уже видели.
Да, потому что мы как раз на прошлом уроке обсуждали, что многие об этих лекциях даже не подозревали, а спрашивают, а вы смотрели лекцию? Вы смотрели лекцию? Мы говорим, нет, не смотрели. Но Наталья Васильевна смотрела лекцию, очевидно.
Ну вот вы можете спросить Наталью Васильевну, что она думает, как соотносятся лекции с семинарами, и стоит ли смотреть лекции без семинаров, а семинар без лекций. Она все знает, лучше меня уже, наверное.
Ну сразу видно было, кто из коллег подкован уже.
А кто просто так зашел? Просто в субботу зашел посидеть.
Да. Лекции, которые мы ведем с Наташей, и вот отвечая на вопрос для тех, кто лекции не видал, это те же самые на русском языке по 6 темам, которые вы видели. И там такой короткий обзор без примеров, но с четкими инструкциями. Делай раз, делай два, делай три.
Нет, а по-английски было тоже, начиная с 3-й лекции, по-моему, или с 4-й.
Да, ну чуть-чуть. Там английский встревает.
А есть на английском только лекции?
На английском только лекции. У нас нет.
Нет.
Мы решили записать на русском. Ну, вот мы так решили.
Сколько длится одна лекция примерно?
Лекция по speaking самая короткая 55 минут, а вообще там 80 минут есть лекция, например, по reading и по... В каждой лекции 2 спикера, я и Наташа ведет одну часть, а я вторую, или мы потом меняемся.
Но когда смотришь лекции, есть возможность теперь нажать на паузу, записать,
Да,
там,
конечно, да,
конспектировать.
да, пожалуйста. Можно пересмотреть несколько раз, пожалуйста.
Ну, там
Они
написано,
еще
можно
будут
зайти
сейчас
только 3
пока
раза в аккаунт.
доступны?
Это зайти в аккаунт, если вы оттуда из...
Get-курс там.
Если вы кому-то передаете аккаунт. Ну, то есть вы не
А мы
сможете...
сейчас, Женя, а сейчас еще можно смотреть эти лекции, там, вот, если
Их
зайдем
надо-
на Get-курс?
Если на GetCourse можно еще, на GetCourse будет еще 4 месяца доступно. Или 3.
Ну, так я вот частично посмотрела, частично нет.
Да, пожалуйста,
То есть с момента с 24 числа начнется отсчет этих 4 месяцев?
Да, 24 числа, и цены с 24 числа тоже поднимутся.
Мгм.
А вот, Жень, там какие-то задания еще были? Вот я задания не успевала делать. Это обязательно
Нет,
для...
это не
ну, как,
обязательно. Нет.
просто для того, чтобы для более углубленного
Для
понять.
фокуса, да.
Но
Мгм.
там идет больше для teenagers, да? Там нет young learners.
Young learners нет, не обязательно teenagers. Это, в принципе, общая методика. Как мы
Просто
сегодня говорили,
методические лекции.
как мы
да.
сегодня говорили вот про speaking, мы же не фокусировались ни на малышунчиках, ни на тех, кто
Потому
постарше.
что никто про малышунчиков просто не спросил.
Но в целом, в принципе, все те же самые. Понятно,
все
что с
же
детьми
самое.
надо будет просто чуть по-другому делать, но, в принципе, то же самое. Вот. Какие-то еще есть ли вопросы
Мгм.
по методике, по какие-то комментарии?
Мгм.
То мы лекции посмотрим, значит.
Ну, это хорошо.
Всё очень информативно было.
Да.
Много информации. В принципе, я очень рада, что присоединилась.
Ура!
И нашла вас случайно через
Ура.
курсы
Да,
МВУ.
да.
Я увидела, что у вас свои курсы.
Да,
И поэтому я вот сейчас заинтересовалась летней школой. Вы держите в курсе,
хорошо.
что будет,
Да,
когда это
кстати, я
будет.
была однажды, 2 года назад с Наташей и Женей на этих. Это вообще был незабываемый, самый счастливый мгновение, наверное, мне кажется, вообще педагогической, методической моей карьере. Ну, не карьере, а, так скажем, жизни.
Да,
Ну
Так
вот,
было феерично и весело, вообще это просто и полезно очень.
да.
конечно,
Да,
это очень
это
полезно. Вот
выездные,
летом
да, я-
сорвались поездки
Я
все, вот,
как-то
которые
была просто,
планировали.
лично присутствовала вот на
В
на
Москве
таких
мы
вот курсах.
делали 4
Да.
раза же, да, на 5 дней нон-стоп. Прям с утра до
Отлично,
вечера.
это очень классно.
Более того, я вообще со школы ушла и стала часто по репетиторам. После этого был у меня такой переломный момент. Судьбоносный после этой встречи с вами. Не жалею.
Ну, ура! Ура! Хорошо.
Только расти надо, много заниматься. Вот,
Да-да,
спасибо вам за thank you very much
да.
for your information, за ваши
Так.
знания, что вы щедро делитесь с нами.
Пожалуйста. Коллеги, спасибо большое. Спасибо, что пришли. Если поделитесь информацией о нашей Elephant Academy с коллегами, то классно. Рекомендуйте наши курсы, приходите к нам на занятия с Наташей. Мы желаем вам хорошего окончания 2020 года и
Спасибо.
неплохого начала 2021. Отдохните, пожалуйста, чуть-чуть
Очень хотелось,
от онлайна тоже. Выключите уже все
Да,
зумы,
это
да,
точно.
телефоны. И вот как можете, где можете, чтобы немножко...
И на лыжи, да?
И на лыжи. Ну, коль зима, да, у кого лыжи. Да. Спасибо большое.
Спасибо вам, Женя, большое.
Счастливо. До
Наташе
свидания.
большой
Спасибо
привет
вам.
от нас, и ей тоже спасибо.
Да.